Now today we've got the 74 Sportster in the shop, and we're going to tackle a little project with the air cleaner cover. The original owner evidently carved, or had carved, some little markings, engravings on it. Kind of looks like flames coming out of the middle of it. I'll show you in just a second. But what we got to do is clean all of that out, see if we can fill it in and restore it to the original smooth, nice cover. He wants to keep it for that kind of old school nostalgia factor. So we're going to take it apart, show you what we got to do to get it done, and see how it goes. So with the air cleaner cover off, we take a close look here and we see these little engravings, these little carvings. These are what we got to fill in and get rid of. They do have a little bit of a blue paint inside of them or something that we've got to clean out of there, otherwise it could contaminate the weld. There's a couple of precautions that we got to take care of here. Being that this is very, very old and it is cast, we have to assume that we don't even know what the hell it's made out of. So most importantly, it could blow a hole right through it. It could melt it down. The weld might not take to it. They could destroy the piece completely, which is not what we want to do. We want to try and restore it. I did take the liberty of already cleaning this one spot up and cleaned it out, and we're going to bust out the TIG, see what it takes to get it to fill in, and see if we can do the entire piece. Otherwise, we have to look into other options of filling it in or possibly replacing it completely. So we're going to see what's got to get done here. We'll take a close look at this real quick. Now it does look kind of ashy and it looks a little like generally crappy, and you can see there's a lot of contamination that actually popped out of it. Being that this is not a structural piece, we're not really concerned about that. All I really care is that the weld took to it really well. Puddled up nicely, filled in great. I don't have any really serious worries about this one. So what I'm going to do is clean the rest of this stuff up here, and we're going to weld all of that in. It's not going to take too long, but it's one of those things that I'm confident that we'll have success rate in this one. So let's get to it. One problem that I do have here that I need to take care of is there's like a little bit of a dent right here, or a giant divot. And if we flip this over, you can see it on the back side. I already cleaned it up right there. It's cracked. So one thing I'm gonna have to do is try and bang that back out and flatten it, so that way I don't have to just pour in a whole bunch of weld to it. Let's see if we can get it straight before we actually fix it. I mean, yeah, you could fill it up with a whole bunch of weld, but I mean that's just kind of tacky. So let's see if I can get this fixed, and then we'll get to welding the whole thing up after I get it. Now before that gets too cool, it's nothing more than just a sheet metal hammer. One of the oldest persuasion tools I've had for years now, and it's see, it's all mushroomed out and whatnot. It's perfect for banging aluminum back in. It is aluminum. So I'm going to use this, stick it over on the visor, see if I can get it bang back out. Well, that's not bad. It's actually flattened itself right back out. We do have a bit of a crack here in the top of it. I wish I could zoom in and show you that, but we're good enough to weld, because that weld is going to take care of all of that little section in there. But now it's nice, flat, even, and once we weld and sand it back down, there should be absolutely no imperfection in it whatsoever, which is really the goal here. So before I get cracking away on welding all of this stuff in here, I'm going to hit it with the torch one more time just to burn off all the moisture and all the crap that could contaminate this, and we'll get burning on it. Well, that wasn't so bad. It was cooperative for the most part. Had to let it cool down a few times in between, but that's actually no big deal. Otherwise, it would just kind of melt its way through and you know, you got to be patient about this kind of thing. Only burned about almost 3 rods to get it all filled in. So now I get to wait for it to cool down. I'll get to the fun part, which is refinishing all of it and smoothing it all back out and seeing how much of this actually disappeared. So now that we let it cool down a little bit, we can go back, chase it down with the grinder. And which this, since it is, you know, really soft cast aluminum, we've got to, you know, consider what we're going to use for it. So in this case, I outfitted my grinder with a brand new flap disc. And this flap disc will take care of just about everything on there without chewing it up and leaving this nasty kind of impression on it. The trick to this one is very, very lightly and delicately take your time and go over it. You let the flap disc do the work, not your hand. Well, that's not so bad actually. We do have a couple of little spots here, these little cracks, couple of little divots, so I guess I'll break the TIG back out and go back over it again and see if we can get all of those nice and filled in. Now one thing is I've been sanding all of this down. It's coming out nice and relatively even for the most part, but where they did go through and put these heavy gouges in here, I'm realizing that that's just going to be a little bit too much to expect out of a dual action sander. So I'm going to bust out something just a little bit heavier, one of my nice little secret weapons to get rid of all of this, because it is completely impractical to go back and try to fill in all these with weld and whatnot. There's enough material here that we can take these off smoothly and completely eliminate them just by removing metal. Here it is. This is my very fine grit flap wheel. It's usually like one of those Scotch-Brite pads that's all layered and glued into here. Now this thing will take up such a fine amount of metal each time, whether you dig in or you go over it lightly, and it's enough to take down just enough to where it doesn't start scarring and gouging the heck out of the side of the metal here. So we gotta try and keep it nice and smooth, but get rid of all of these little lines. This is the tool to do it. Man, I love this tool. Think of it as kind of like an eraser for anything metal. It's incredible. You just got to remember to be extremely patient with it, because it's only going to take off very fine amounts, which means it takes about 2 or 3 times longer to actually sand down and get rid of a mark. But the cool thing about it is it doesn't leave such an impression behind that you have to go back and sand it and sand it and sand it some more. So think of it in the lines of efficiency. You get more done by taking more time on this than you would by going back over 3 or 4 different types of metal finish if you would have just used this the first time. So definitely one of my favorite tools. So now we can get back to sanding. Man, that is nice. That is smooth. Well, I still need to get in contact with the owner and find out what exactly he wants to do for the finish work on it, whether he wants to chrome it, brush it, coat it, leave it like this. I mean, the choices are really endless. So just like that, a few hours worth of work and a little bit of finish work and a little attention to detail, you pretty much end up with a brand new cast aluminum air cleaner cover. And granted, this is restored, but it's still in the exact like brand new condition on it that it would have come in, as far as the smoothness and no more of those little engravings and all the really pesky stuff that he didn't really want to have on there. So just a little bit more work and a little more finding out what we got to do. I'll get back to you and let you keep you updated on what's going on and whatnot. But in the meantime, thanks for watching the Fabricator. We'll see you next time.